It started with a book. Of course it did. My whole life is books. But this was different. I was in the study, I'm always in the study, cross-referencing a treatise on 17th century alchemy with my own notes. I reached for a specific volume on the shelf, The Serpent's Emblem. I knew it was there. I bought it in 1998. I cataloged it. I've read it 4 times. I know the author's name as well as I know my own. My hand hovered, and I couldn't remember the author's name. You're probably thinking, so what? People forget things. You don't understand. I don't. My name is Jerry. I'm 48 years old, and I am, for lack of a better term, a professional recluse. I used to be an academic researcher. You know, the whole publisher-perish circus. I hated it. The noise, the people, the pressure to perform, the sheer intrusiveness of it all. When I got a small inheritance, I vanished. I bought this house, way out here where the only thing you hear is the wind, and I dedicated my life to my real work, study. This house isn't a home, it's a fortress. My library is the keep, my mind is the vault. Everything I need is in here. I hoard 2 things, time and knowledge. They're the only things that matter. They are my defense. Why? Because years ago at the university, I learned what happens when you're caught without them. I was in a departmental debate. A real hotshot, this guy named Evans, decided to make an example of me. He asked me a question, a simple, stupid question about a footnote in a paper I'd referenced, a detail. I didn't know the answer. It wasn't just embarrassing, it was structural. It felt like he'd found a loose brick, and in front of everyone, he pulled it out. The whole wall collapsed. I just stood there, blank, hollow. I wasn't a researcher. I wasn't an expert. I was nothing. Just an empty, incompetent shell. I vowed right then that I would never, ever be caught unprepared again. My mind became my sanctuary. I'd spend the rest of my life making it impenetrable. Every fact, every date, every author was another steel plate on the door. And that's why I'm telling you this. Because I stood there for a full minute, staring at the spine of the serpent's emblem. The author's name wasn't just on the tip of my tongue, it wasn't there. The space in my head where that fact lived, it was just a void. An empty, silent hole. It's been 3 days, and the author's name hasn't come back. And this morning, when I was making coffee, I realized I couldn't remember the capital of Portugal. Lisbon. The word finally floated up about an hour later, but it felt wrong. It felt hollow. Like a piece of trivia I'd just been told, not a fact I knew. It didn't feel like my knowledge. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. Sleep suddenly felt dangerous, like leaving the fortress gates unlocked. I stayed in my chair in the library all night, just organizing shelves, trying to patch the walls, to feel the solid weight of the facts around me. I ran drills, capitals, dates, philosophical trees. It was like counting ammo during a siege. I must have dozed off. I woke up with a jolt. The sun was high, streaming through the dusty window. My neck ached. And my desk, it was covered in paper. Scraps of paper, sticky notes, the backs of envelopes, all covered in my own frantic handwriting. My handwriting. I had zero memory of writing any of it. One note, taped to my monitor, just said, "It's not forgetting, It's emptying. I stared at it. An entire day. Yesterday. From the moment I couldn't remember Lisbon until this moment, in this chair, it was gone. Not hazy, not fuzzy. It was a complete, clinical, perfect void. A cold, efficient panic started to set in. This wasn't a senior moment. This was a structural failure. I got up. Don't panic. Panic is inefficient. Just re-establish the baseline. Routine. Coffee. I went to the kitchen. Alyssa? The house was silent. Not just quiet, the way I like it. This was a dead, empty, wrong kind of silence. The air was stale. Alyssa? I called again, louder. I walked down the hall. Her study was just a guest room. It was filled with boxes, covered in drop cloths. Her desk was gone. Her books were gone. Her smell, that faint lavender and paper smell, was gone. I ran to our bedroom. Her clothes weren't in the closet. Her toothbrush wasn't in the bathroom. It wasn't just that she was gone. It was like she had never been here. My heart was hammering, a stupid, messy biological reaction. This was wrong. This was all wrong. I stumbled back to my study, my hands shaking. I tore through the frantic notes from the day I couldn't remember. They were just lists, facts, timelines. Socrates, 470 BC. French Revolution, 1789. Me trying to anchor myself. Then I saw it. A single sheet of yellow legal paper, placed neatly on my keyboard, separate from the rest. The handwriting was mine, but it wasn't the frantic scrawl. It was calm, precise, clinical. It said, Alyssa died 4 years ago, November 10th, aneurysm. You have to stop forgetting this. It was a lie. It had to be. A prank. What? I didn't write that. I couldn't have. I would know. I would feel it. 4 years? I just misplaced 4 years of grief? Impossible. We had coffee last week, didn't we? I remember her laughing at something I said. My mind was screaming, this is wrong. This is the trick. I grabbed my car keys. I had to prove the note was a lie. I had to find her. She still taught at the university, right? In the classics department. I'd go there. I'd find her. I'd show her this sick joke. I drove into town, my mind just a blank, roaring engine. I hadn't left the property in months? A year? The road seemed different, newer. I parked in the faculty lot. Or where the faculty lot used to be? I got out of the car. The building wasn't right. The ivy was thicker, choking the windows. The sign at the main entrance, it was wrong. It didn't say University. It said Chester County Museum of Regional History. No, that wasn't right. I taught here. I ran inside. The main hall, the hall where I'd had that horrible debate with Evans, was filled with exhibits, antique tractors, glass cases of pottery. Excuse me, I said, grabbing the arm of a woman at an information desk. She flinched. Where is the classics department? Where is Dr. Alyssa? She just looked at me, her face a mix of pity and fear. Sir, this has been the county museum for about 3 years now. The university closed. I don't know any Dr. Alyssa. I'm sorry.
3 years. Alyssa died 4 years ago. The university closed 3 years ago. My life, the life I was living just 2 days ago, it wasn't real. It was a memory of a world that hadn't existed for years. I had been hoarding time that was already spent. I don't remember driving home. I was just there, back in the library, my fortress. I was breathing too fast. I couldn't get enough air. I looked at the shelf, the book, the one that started it. The serpent's emblem. I pulled it from the shelf. My hands were numb. I opened it. The pages were blank. Every single one. Just smooth, empty white paper. I dropped it. I scrambled to another shelf, pulling down a history of the Gnostics. Blank. My own doctoral thesis. Blank, blank, blank. It wasn't that the books were empty. I finally understood. It was that I had emptied them. The knowledge was gone from my head, and the world was just catching up. The leak wasn't just in my mind. It was pulling reality in after it. I wasn't forgetting. I was being erased, and I was taking the world with me.
I fought. God, how I fought. I bought a camera, a Polaroid. I took pictures of everything. This is your desk. This is your car. This is your face. I wrote on them with a marker, Jerry, 48, house. I woke up the next morning and the photos were just abstract shapes. A man I didn't know stared back at me, his face labeled with a word I couldn't read. The words went next. First the complex ones, then the simple ones. The language, it just dissolved. The notes I wrote became meaningless lines, chicken scratches. I was trying to build a dam with handfuls of sand, and the tide was coming in. My study, my beautiful fortress, emptied. The books vanished from the shelves one by one as I lost them. The walls became bare. The room grew large and cold. My mind, my vault, was being stripped for parts. The steel plates were gone. The door was wide open, and there was nothing inside left to steal. I'm sitting in my chair now. It's dark. I don't know how to turn on the light. And that word feels wrong. There is one last thing, one beautiful, complex idea left in my head. It's about the shape of everything. A grand, perfect thought. It's the last piece of me, the final brick. I have a stick, a pen. I have paper. I have to save this one thing. If I can save this, I'm not gone. I put the stick to the paper. My hand trembles. I don't know how. I don't know how to make the lines, the shapes. I look at my hand. It is just a thing at the end of my arm. The last thought, the beautiful one, it's quiet. The mailman was the one who called. The newspapers had been piling up for weeks. A neighbor, Charles, met the police officer at the door. He was unlocked. The house was cold, the power off. "Jerry?" the officer called out. "Police! You okay in there, pal?" They found him in the study. The room was barren, not just empty of furniture, but sterile. The walls were bare, the bookshelves were gone. There was just a recliner in the middle of the floor, covered in dust. And Jerry, he was thin, skeletal, but he was alive. He was just sitting, staring at the blank wall. "My God," the neighbor whispered. "Jerry!" The officer shone his flashlight. The beam hit the man in the chair. Slowly, almost peacefully, the man's head turned. His eyes, wide and clear, found the light. They were blank. Not confused, not scared, just empty, like two polished stones. And then he smiled. It was the widest, most serene, most joyful smile the officer had ever seen. It was a smile of pure, absolute, uncomplicated contentment. It was the most terrifying thing he had ever witnessed. Jerry had spent his whole life building a fortress to keep the world out, terrified of being found empty. He never realized that the fear itself was the last thing keeping the walls up. The fortress was gone. The prisoner was gone. There was nothing left to be afraid of.
Thank you so much for watching or listening. Like and subscribe for more nightmares. Your support keeps the darkness from consuming this channel, so we can face the next terrifying story together. Don't be left in the dark.